Let's try this again. Should be sound check number 2. Should be able to start hearing something now that I turned the mic on. There we go. All right, thank you all for joining us here tonight. We're at the presentation from AMAC, 3 different mayors running for a seat here in Anchorage. Do not forget to like and share. Facebook squirrels on you if you don't. Quite a large crowd has shown up for this today. We've got 3 different mayoral candidates that are running for office here in Anchorage to speak today out of the very full field. If I was someone that lived in Anchorage, these would definitely be people that I would consider voting for. So don't forget, again, like and share. If you get a chance, go to my website, Politadick.com. This new microphone that we're talking into right now is thanks to all the contributions and donations that you all have added into making us and helping us grow and be able to produce better content and reach you all out here today. You have yourself a great day. Just so we're all on the same page for all of you Karens out there, this is a socially distanced event. Almost everybody here appears to be wearing masks. This is going to be a very open and friendly environment. Come on down. Don't hesitate if you're in the area. We'd love to see you. If not, make sure you share this so that you, your friends, your family who live here in Anchorage have the ability to be able to know what is going on and who to vote for.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, glad you're here. This is your AMAC Greater Anchorage organization. And if you would kindly wrap it up and find a spot that is distanced, that would be great. Okay, Kathy.
You pressed on, Kathy.
He lost his school.
Uppity.
I pledge allegiance. You got it. Thank you. We were looking here at 4 minutes after 7, and we'll asking you permission to maybe go up to 8:40 tonight, maybe, so we'll see how that goes. And our target is 8:30. So, again, thank you all for being here. We'll have stragglers coming in, and I'll follow my notes here. All right. At this point, Steve Lillard, would you pop up here, please? And because we're trying to conserve things, and things that are conserved, and one of those very old ideas is in this prayer. Please.
All right, let's pray.
Almighty God, you are our creator and our sustainer. You are our light and our fortress. You are our wisdom and our strength. We ask you for guiding hand to lead us through this meeting. May our conduct create an environment of true liberty. May the governing officials in our land turn from darkness to light. May they guide with your wisdom. Thank you for helping us to accomplish our work this day. We ask these things in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Paper down there. All right. We all have spirits. Now, our nation has a flag. We stand and pledge our allegiance to it. I was reminded that I learned this before, one nation under God is different than one nation under God. I pledge allegiance to this flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now, if you would find a short sheet of paper, and maybe you even have this in your head. If you've attended here before, then it could be in your head. If you absolutely, I put one every other so that people would share social distancing, 6-7 years. Okay, and this is going against the ideas that we shouldn't sing. So I invite you to try to follow on pitch. Would you do that? However, there is only one scheduled for tonight. Okay. Okay, thank you, and we're lucky to see you. An introduction. Some people are new here tonight, or there are bathrooms that are through those doors. And you look to the left or the right, you'll see there are actually gendered bathrooms. So, we also have a security here tonight. One of them has on a black hat. So he's have thoughts, please share them with Steve. There is a group of men around here that support this event, and he's part of that group. They'll set up and take down the chairs, and they all want to go home tonight at our meeting. So, okay, thank you, security team. Other introductions. We have 3 mayoral candidates for the Anchorage election coming up. There are more candidates than that. And they are here tonight. Ms. Heather Herndon is here, Mr. Dave Bronson is here, and Mr. Mike Robbins is here. Thank you for coming and for sharing your citizen heart and that part of your life. Okay, we also have a presentation here by Bert, I don't know your last name, and the Politadick. It's kind of a funny name, although it sticks with you. Politadick is making this go out onto a social media in a way, and the gentleman Bert is sitting right here. So if you have a thought for that, I invite you to talk with him about it. Please do. All right. Are there any other folks here tonight that are of a ability to influence our community as legislators or board members, anything like that, that you would state that you're here?
I think we all do, we just need to speak up sometimes.
So I'm hearing you say, I think we all do, and I think we need to speak up sometimes. Okay. So as you have a particular name and you care to say that, please do introduce yourself here in the next few minutes. All right. Then, there is also a table layout here. I had some tables for brochures that support the candidates as they have them here in December. I have a table over here of AMAC or AMAC information that if you've not looked at that table, please do take things that are thoughtful for you. AMAC is found basically online, and it is promoted around the national rules in amazing ways. So I invite you to be curious about that if you haven't been so in the past. Okay, what else?
I do have a comment. Last night I tried to find AMAC here. Do you hear any information about AMAC here online? Because I wanted to send it to somebody and I couldn't find anything about it.
Oh, about the local AMAC. So she's asking about national AMAC, and then this is what I call local.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's true that I'm not that organized. I'm not a teenager. So it is the case that this roster over here, where the gentleman who's standing in the back there by the rotator, he's holding the roster. Please put your name on that, and then we will be the best attempts we have to email you that way. And occasionally then, for the intention is for like 3 or 4 times before the next meeting, which is the second Tuesday of December, January, there will be 3 or 4 more emails that do go out to announce the agenda, and that may be forwarded to those that you just referred to.
You have a well site.
I'm sorry,
A well site.
a website?
Website, yes.
Okay. I believe on the website, that's what I don't no, there isn't a particular local website, there is not. I have a Facebook page, but I'm trying to get off that. Okay.
Should say something wrong, but maybe.
Thank you.
Someone has a question over here.
All right. I do want to work through my jokes. That's what I'm going to do to these gentlemen, and Gail will be ready. Ms. Gail, and if you have something to say, let's use the microphone.
Okay, I don't have a question, but I do have a teenager that is so gifted, and he needs something to do. So he is one of my sons, and I definitely feel like he's administratively gifted, and he would do amazing to help you with whatever you need techno-wise. So there you go. His name is Pete. Get ready, because he will be an amazing help to you.
Well, that's an honor, and let us speak to her later on. You are Mrs. Campbell?
Mrs. Campbell, yes.
Yes,
Nice to
okay.
meet you.
I imagine that you are a parent that is interactive with your children. That's great.
Very much.
Thank you. Okay, let's see here. Before I get to my jokes, here's a question for each of you as thinkers. What is an originalist? That's a strange term. We're not going to get to that formally here. Now, the next ideas come from my friend Dave Cook, and he has some wonderful ideas that are relating to originalists. Sir?
I didn't expect that question, but so Robert asked me to speak when we're selecting a mayor, and the best place I can think of to give advice on selecting a mayor or any leader is out of our Bible. So I went looking in the Bibles and looking for advice on selecting a new leader. It says, when Gideon died, Gideon was a righteous leader of Israel. Abimelech sought to become its new ruler. Through grandiose promises, flattery, and bribes, he secured the position and then promptly filled his administration with worthless and reckless fellows. Judges 9:4. One of Gideon's sons, Jotham, described the situation in a parable, telling the people, once the trees came forth to him and he came over them, and they said to the olive tree, reign over us. But the olive tree said to them, shall I leave my fatness with which God and men are honored, and go and wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the fig tree, you, come and reign over us. And the fig tree said, shall I leave my sweetness and my good fruit, and go to wave over the trees? Then the tree said to the vine, you, come and reign over us. But the vine said to them, shall I leave my new wine, which cheers God and men, and go to wave over the trees? Finally the tree said to the bramble, you, come and reign over us. The bramble said to the trees, if in truth you are anointing me king over you, come and take refuge in my shade. But if not, may fire come out of the bramble and consume you in the wood of Lebanon. There are several points here. The trees of the forest try to get the best and most productive people in their society to be their ruler, asking the olive tree, the fig tree, and the great producing vine to fill that position. But each of the good trees made excuses for why they didn't want to serve. With none of the good trees willing to be ruler, the bramble, also called the thorn bush, became the ruler. Significantly, if the good ones refused to rule, the people would be stuck with bad rulers. With the thorn bush as ruler, the people had only two options, and neither of these was good. Come take refuge in my shade, but sitting under a bramble bush is less than comfortable. Or if you don't submit to me, and I will use punitive measures to punish you. We might have seen a little of that going on right now. Significantly, when competent and qualified God-fearing citizens refuse to run for office, the people get corrupt leaders, which causes good people to say, politics is corrupt. I want nothing to do with such a wicked system. But the very reason the politics becomes wicked and corrupt is because good people refuse to run. So what qualifications make a good candidate for office? Exodus 18:21 charges us, select out of all the people, able people who fear God, people of truth, those who hate dishonest gain. You shall gain a place of them over as leaders, and thousands of hundreds of fifties and of tens. There are four qualifications that I'll cover real quick, and I'll sit down and let the candidate speak. First, the candidate must be an able person, competent and qualified for the position. There is nothing much worse than having an incompetent individual preside over any area of your life, and this is especially true in civil government. Second, they must fear God. If they don't fear God, they're not qualified to serve in office, according to Scripture. They have a personal relationship with God that produces a life of honesty, integrity, purity, and holiness. Third, they must love the truth. Otherwise, they will become closed-minded to sound counsel. They won't listen to correction or rebuke. They will therefore become arrogant and stubborn, hard-headed, frequently barreling down the wrong path. Fourth, there must be a person who hates dishonest gain, not only loathing corruption, but also despising frequent perks that might be offered to them as a result of their position. Individuals displaying these 4 characteristic traits shall be chosen as leaders for local, county, and state and federal levels, tens, 50s, hundreds, and thousands. Founding Father Noah Webster explained what will occur if citizens do not insist on these 4 traits of their leaders. From Webster, these scriptures teach that the rulers should be men who rule in fear of God, able men such who fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness. It is the neglect of the rule of conduct in our citizens that we must ascribe to multiple frauds, breaches of trust, percolations, white-collar larceny, and embezzlement of public property, which astonishes even ourselves. Much more to go, but that's where we need to look for a leader. Thank you.
If you don't know the truth, how can you tell the truth?
I just want to make a quick suggestion, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Please turn off your cell phones. I think Robert had a good example there.
That was my daughter.
And when Gail hands you the microphone, if you could put it right close to your mouth, otherwise it would be feedback.
We'll have 2 of those tonight, plus this one. Okay, thank you. Then, let's see here. The dumbest thing I ever did was purchase, the dumbest thing I ever purchased was a 2020 calendar planner. How about this? The longer I stay at home, the more I look homeless. So with those ideas, here are some facts from that I picked up last week. In the state of Alaska, there were 33,291 positive tests for COVID within whatever year it is. Okay? In that same amount of time, with those 33,000 positive tests, there were 129 people that died with the COVID, not because of the COVID. 129 people died with the COVID. And at that same segment of time, there were 124 people that died of liver cirrhosis.
Liver cirrhosis.
Okay. That's in Alaska, that's my understanding. Yes, sir. Okay. And statement here, kudos, you're aware of the Alaska Watchman? If you're not, I encourage you to be. He was one of the speakers here, and we'll have him back again. I'm sorry?
When I try to bring up their website, it won't come up.
Keep trying, or?
I think there's some kind of a block on it.
Oh, well, that just, don't find him. He's out there, he's a local guy. Okay, okay. And within his last presentations, he presented the revelation that you won't get in the daily news thing about election issues in our state of Alaska. So he was one of the, his publication was one of the sources of that. On there also is a petition to sign on iPetition.com where you can speak your name about the use of Dominion voting machines in Alaska. If that idea makes your blood boil, then at least there's a petition there through the Alaska Watchman. Okay. And I encourage you to consider the community councils that are in your area. I believe next meeting I may have a community council topic here so that we can find out where are these 36 community councils and what if well, there's the question. Okay. Did you know that there's an Alaska Supreme Court vacancy coming up in 2021? Okay. And how will the rules get on that court? Okay. There are 4 school board members, 4 school board openings in Anchorage School District. Did Mr. Dave just refer to what qualifies for a leader? Is a school board member a leader? Okay. All right. I encourage you to read the founding documents.
Yes.
The founding documents. probably not the Anchorage or municipal charter. There is a brochure over there. It's a small book that has the founding documents in it. It also has the Quran in it, and it has the Communist Manifesto. So I invite you to pick up one of those on the way out and read the founding documents. I invite you to write to the governor to get rid of a person who I don't know. I'm going to say the name, Gail Fenway, who's in the department, that if you pursue, why is that person in a state Department of Elections? Maybe she shouldn't be there. Okay, write to the governor. Okay. Let's see here. We had a presentation, there was a presentation here recently by Craig Campbell, Alaskans for Open Meetings. He's trying to do something legally in town. Okay? And I encourage you to be curious for Alaskans for Open Meetings, Craig Campbell, and that's all I can tell you at this point because we have other purposes tonight. I encourage you to become a poll worker. Okay? Sign up, poll watcher, poll worker. Okay? And eternal vigilance is the price of victory. Eternal vigilance is the price of victory. Okay. All right. For this evening, we have there is an upcoming event. It's an election. I don't know a lot about it, and I don't want to overspeak anything here. Apparently, the election here is going to involve no primary election, as we were familiar from the last election cycle. There will be whatever one ballot is, and on it are going to be all the choices. You'll see three of those citizens here tonight. Apparently there's a rule that says you have to get 45% of the actual vote in order for there not to have a runoff election. 45%. So what does that mean? Although I believe for our purposes tonight, splitting the vote to that whole topic, which is a thought, is not as important as what ideas can be expressed and understood and simplified. Those are the ideas for tonight. There may be a final election again in May after the one in April. So there is a sequence here to this mayor position that is put into the code. Okay. Now, before we have our guests up here, I would read something that I pulled off of Save Anchorage today. Have you ever heard of Save Anchorage? It's there's another one out there called Open Anchorage, and Open Alaska. Thank you. And this is from the Save Anchorage. It comes 7 hours ago. The things we see happening in our two closest states, Washington and Oregon, are downright, and I don't like this word, scary. Seattle mayor isn't seeking re-election. Way far leftists are thinking how they can overtake that Seattle government. Seattle already looks third world in some of its neighborhoods. Oregon is decriminalizing almost all drugs. Basically, anyone can use any bathroom. We, the writer here, cannot and must not allow our town to become this. Our town is this town. We must stay active. Is that the eternal vigilance? Is the price of liberty? They wouldn't let looting or burning happen. But God forbid we try to sell a burger from a restaurant here. First, by all means, elect a Republican mayor. It must happen, according to these words. Chances are not much will occur until we get to the assembly elections. Then we must vote out the liberals who have been planted here. We must keep the heat on. Also, by the way, does anyone know which side of the fence the Anchorage district attorneys are on? So I invite you to be curious. Is there a side of the fence, of a FENC fence, that matters for district attorneys? and how does the mayor interact with that? So these are some thoughts that are available to you as question ask takers tonight. I'm sure they have their own thoughts, and I have only one question to pose to each, the same question to pose to each of the individuals as I try to organize this meeting tonight. One question to each of the same people, and after they have that question read to them, they can decide when you want to answer it, either first or weave it into your presentation, either way. Okay. Excuse me. Yes. Would you speak?
So I wanted to just encourage you to go to a website that is called freealaska.org. It has all of those things that Robert has mentioned. You can find your community councils on that website. It has the Open Alaska page. It has Save Anchorage page. It has another one, several. It's a really good website that kind of all in one-stop shop. So freealaska.org. Okay?
I have this, and then I'll get back. Thanks. Okay, thank you, Bill. Freealaska.org. So, and write things down. All right, our goal is to get the blue out and get it read in. Okay? Another idea here is that boards and commissions in Anchorage are influencers. And as there are boards and commissions, they get new staff recommended with people that are currently in the administration. So I wonder how many, what do you call them, liberals, how many non-conservatives are on the restaurant boards and the fisheries boards and those kinds of appointed things. So the idea of having a conservative mayor is more important than just having a mayor. All right. Tonight we would have a 25-minute approximate piece time slot. It's not a debate format where there's a moderator, and I invite you then to have tell your ideas, and we'll use the microphone to to move among the crowd when we have a thought of a question or comment. Okay? I'd be the guy that keeps the time, so. All right. So, our first sequence presenter tonight is one who is Heather Herndon, and she is, excuse me? This is bad. Okay, I'm going to keep doing this. Okay, one who is Heather Herndon, and she is from the South Anchorage and the Girdwood area, as I understand, and from the Livermore, I understand, and I invite you to be introduced to our group, our AMAC group, as well as to your city in the citizenry, and I invite you then, Heather, to take this microphone here, right here, if you would, and as you are coming forward as a candidate, Heather, here's the question. I'm asking you to think about. You've seen this question before. All of the people have here tonight. What are some reasons that you believe our homeless population is so much more visible in the past years?
And
what is the most important, impactful thing you would do as mayor to address it?
You want to start with the question?
You may. Yeah. Thank you.
In the last 5 years, it's to my understanding that 172.
Okay, we'll practice with the microphone.
Okay. Is this better?
Closer. That's
A little bit better?
closer.
Okay. It's to my understanding in the last 5 years that we went from 107 people to over 1,000 people during the Bronson administration. And I'm not sure that we should have won the election myself, because I'm a numbers person, so going through the names, I don't think you should have won the election. I'll tell you why in a minute. But but back to the homeless population. I had three ways I was going to address the homeless population. One was veterans housing. There was veterans housing that was with David about, 3 years ago, he had a plan. Military was going to give him land to do military housing for homeless vets, and it was rejected. I will bring it back as mayor. I want to see it built. I'm in construction and development and private placement memorandums and investment, local investment myself. That's what I do. So my small little life, that's what I do for a living. Then I will take, because I also was part of building the new hospital, AMAC, when it was built. So the old hospital, we could do remediation on anyone has asbestos. I know several things, so anybody that is homeless, I'm sure I can, because I have spoken with the native corporations regarding getting assistance to do that, and I feel that those two things would leave me with about 300 people, in which we can figure out who is actually a criminal. Some people simply want to live this life. And then there's people that honestly need help, that they're down on their luck. They need a job. It's very tough to come back from sleeping in their car to working in a full-time job and being part of society again. So that's my answer to this homeless question. And what is the most impactful thing that I would do as mayor? Okay. There's certain things that I don't understand. Maybe I should go back to the homeless question. For instance, the valuation of $10 million for the Golden Lion. The Golden Lion used to have it was the best priced seafood crab legs dinner that you could get in town. It was marvelous. They used to have white tablecloths and everything. And it's a bit run down, but it could be what we call value add in the industry. We don't understand what Geneva Woods is behind it. We outpatient services and surgery, why they wouldn't simply use it for people. They do a easement so that people can walk between the properties to take their appointment the next day. I'm not sure why that didn't happen. But these kinds of things, I don't understand why that's $10 million, but yet they sold the JCPenney parking lot for $1.7 million. I'd like to see the closing on that. It doesn't make any sense to me. Certainly a parking lot in downtown Anchorage is worth more than 1.7 in my opinion. I'm not an appraiser, but I've done enough sourcing of property and real estate for ground-up development and construction. And construction would be the first thing that I would go hard in the first week in the job of being a mayor, because that's how you bring back your car the fastest. Then from that, I want to see, I've been going through the CAFRs, they call them CAFRs, Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports. The notes to look at their audits. Every town has one, okay? But as mayor, I get the general ledger and find out what happened to our $20 million refund, property tax refund we were supposed to receive. As soon as Bronson took office, it disappeared. Where did it go? I would do it myself. I would not ask somebody else to do it. I started out as an auditor in public accounting. I also helped build the refuse, get along the Alaska pipeline. So I'll see it for myself and report back as to where it went and what we can do about it now. Okay, so the most impactful thing, other than bringing in construction, is bringing in business. So we're going to upgrade the businesses that we have, because I have access over the years to some very talented individuals, for instance, in the restaurant business and getting a Michelin star in Anchorage. There's other things, for instance, did you know that Anchorage was supposed to have a financial center? Anchorage was supposed to have a live stock exchange floor at one time. I have boxes of ideas that people had over the years that I collected. And the reason why it didn't happen was because they didn't raise the right palms, which is very sad for us, because those are jobs we could have had in our educational school system on McFarland and ANSA, could have critiqued the way that they teach to those, specifically to those professions. I'm so glad, I don't know if you're ANSA, but we're turned out engineers that they didn't have that when I was going to school. I had to leave. I was one of the lucky ones. One of the lucky ones that got to leave, and I went to Scotland as part of my master's, my postgrad, in finance and accounting. And my undergrad is in finance. Okay, so I've worked with and put together real estate investment trusts. Right? I'm fourth generation Alaskan, and I'm 15th generation American. And my family has been in every war since the Revolutionary War for America. So defending the constitutional republic is in the blood. I'm not going to watch this country or this state turn into a communist party. Okay. If Alaska had wanted to be communist, they could have done that. They could have not become a 49th state. The elders, the tribes, and the tribes that are here, they decided to become American. And if you go back in time, for instance, when the Russians were trying to claim Alaska, the Klukans had iron that they made from the coins that the Russians gave them, which I'm told were actually Chinese money, which is strange. But before it was done, it hasn't changed. There is so much that's being given by media and television. And when you acknowledge, you have to forgive a little, because that's all we have. They don't know what else is going on that you see every day. We have to start speaking to each other and including each other in what we're doing. So, I'd like to talk about the election. Okay. Lieutenant Governor Myers needs to have the pressure put on him. He is in charge of it. Every state has Secretary of State. Okay. We know, because we're Alaska, it's different. We have municipality, we're not a county, it's a municipality, it's different. So he's the one who decides. We need to put pressure on him to find out what is going on with these doing machines and the software behind them. And going back to the last mayoral election, to my understanding, the Anchorage bill has about 285,000 people. We say half the state lives here, right? So us and Paul, Minnesota. Okay, so half of that generally is what people have registered to vote. Let's take it at 120,000 people. Okay. And out of that 120,000 people, generally a third end up voting, correct? Right? Okay. So the last mayoral election, Berkowitz started out with 20-something thousand, in Dabowski, 20-something. And then all of a sudden in the runoff, because we did that by mail, remember, we did that by mail. And then in the runoff, we had 40,000 votes. So we went from a third of the population voting to 2/3 of the population voting when we had ballots known to us to begin with. Where were the people? Did they show up in person for the runoff? They had to, right? They had to go. So why couldn't they have shown up in person and not have million votes? These are strange things to me, that he went from 20,000 votes to 40,000 votes in the runoff. And usually people don't come not sure that he won. I'm not sure that the people that are in the assembly that are having secret meetings, I'm not sure they won either. I'm not sure the judges that were retained won, because everyone I spoke to said they voted no. And I felt weird because I want to see some new blood. I want to see some new blood in our judiciary. I see a lot of people that are very broken and confused people that have attachment, for instance, and started attacking me already. And I blame the judicial system because something happened to them in their life. And it was never, maybe went to court, but it was never finalized that that person who did that was held in consequence of their crime. Mine too, you see. I've had the same house for 50 years. I only built Alaska because I never changed it, right? We had the same house in Anchorage for 50 years. Thank you. It's Alaska, and we're relatively safe to an extent because it's Alaska. We understand. But I had no idea that it was my house that was sprayed with bullets in 2015. You see. APD had a parolee, and they had him surrounded in the woods, which I have the videotape of. Someone gave it to me. It's on the news. They had him on the news for 3 days. And instead, he's waving in the face with a stolen truck. I told the story so many times and I was desensitized from it, but it ended up at my house, and we tried to ambush him at my house, and I have another video where they sprayed my entire backside of my house with bullets. And after that, because I tried to sue them, they terrorized my mother by constantly pulling up in front and blocking our driveway, APD, okay. After all this though, okay, you'll never see me down with BLM or Antifa protesting against the police. No, you'll never see me defending them, ever. But I think we have some bad apples. In fact, I really do. So, there's many things. The economy, we need to, no mask, no mandate. If it was such an extreme thing, why didn't they close the airport? Why didn't they close inbound traffic? We still had tourists come up here. See, after those 2 weeks, we should have been able just to have our little life and go about doing what we do without having to curtail and stay home and hide and live in fear. That's not us. We don't do that. So, I wanted to talk about term limits. Okay. Because there's a constitutional convention. We need 38 states for a constitutional convention to get term limits. And I think term limits should be across the board for all government jobs. I think we start getting these little pockets of people that shouldn't be there. Right now, there are 15 states that have joined the Convention of States. It's a small little group that's also in Alaska. It's a larger group than the 48. But I think we need to start talking to them as well and get Alaska on board to make sure that these people have terms in the assembly. In fact, in the assembly, I'm to the point, because I know so many people haven't been raised here. I told them, I said, I'm just going to put their name in the hat, because I've known you my whole life. And I'm just going to put the name out of the hat. I'm going to go and say, congratulations, you're now a candidate to run for assembly. Because I don't really have somebody that cared. See, all these people in the assembly, most of them are attorneys. Stop hiring attorneys for politicians. And they fear, because they said, Heather, I don't have, I'm not an attorney, I don't have a degree, I build fences. Wonderful. You've actually done something more than they've done for anybody. Come on. In fact, I found two candidates. I'm going to find running their district. It's not just about me and applying and asking them to hire me for the job of mayor. It's about making sure that when that time is up, okay, that 25 minutes, when that time is up, it carries on with somebody who actually cares. All right? Is that my 25 minutes? I'm sorry.
Would you open it up for any comments or questions from the listeners? And then we'll transition to the second cabinet.
Okay. Any questions? Yes.
Well, I don't think they need a mic. I can talk. I do. Okay. So I'm a little bit confused about your comment with Geneva Woods and the hotel. I got kind of lost in the translation of what you were trying to say there. Would you mind repeating yourself on that and clarifying it?
Oh, I'm just don't know why they didn't use the clientele on day surgery, right? And then those people have to go back the next day. Why they didn't put Eastman in the back that they could go, so if you had surgery at Geneva Woods, they could stay at the Belmont, which is right there, and not have to drive anywhere, and maybe have a little bit of our nursing, people who are in nursing careers, our students, somebody to not completely be a PA nurse, but to look after them. I think there's a little bit of a synergy of business there that could have happened that didn't. That was my...
So I live in Geneva Woods subdivision, and the dental offices are right there, and then there is the... Sorry, I didn't think day surgery was held there.
Oh yes, my dad right there. I mean, it's a little outpatient day surgery. But it's a little bit nicer than having to go in the back of your house and then worry about getting somebody to drive you the next day. I just thought there's something that could have been done there in the medical field to where there was a synergy for that hotel.
Thank you.
Okay, another question, another thought that you have.
How come we can't have dogs in Anchorage?
This is Gordon. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Gordon.
I mean, literally, you guys ever been around?
He's from you too.
Dog in Anchorage is almost a crime, it seems.
Yeah. Well, there's almost a problem with walking around. Can't walk around Anchorage. There's all kinds of draconian methods that are coming our way, and we have to do something about it. Do something about it, not just speak about it, but actually do something.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Ms. Heather, thank you for your time. All right, and Ms. Heather Herndon from my listening can bring a experience with building usage and thoughtful building usage of existing structures and how they play out here in Anchorage. Okay, now our second candidate for mayor is also a wonderful citizen here, and his name is Dave Bronson, and he is going to respond to that question that Heather responded to and included in his time with you. There will be certainly a point of comments and questions through the microphone, as we've already seen. Okay, so David, would you come forward here? And thank you for your time tonight. And here's the question, sir. What are some reasons that you believe our homeless population is so much more visible in the past few years? And what is the most impactful thing you would do as mayor in response to it? Thank you, sir.
Great, thanks, Robert. Thank you, AMAC, for having us, Wellspring. Art, thank you very much. Appreciate this. The important thing to know about this homeless problem is to find out where we're going to go with it, we got to find out what causes it. We all know worldwide, it doesn't matter, there's 5 causes of homelessness. And they vary by proportion in various cities and municipalities. It's drug, alcohol abuse, psychiatric problems, lack of affordable housing, and then thing we have to remember at the very base here of the city, the business of this city is business. It's not government. Okay, when you destroy businesses, when you shut them down, when you allow homeless to go on unabated, and that's actually vagrancy, that's the nature of this problem. If you allow it to go on unabated, it's just going to get worse. And now we're looking at, we put on top of that, this economic shutdown, and now what's going to happen to the wait staff at the restaurant? Okay, they're at risk of becoming homeless themselves because they can't pay the rent, they can't pay their mortgage. So that's the one problem that I mentioned in the 5, and that's lack of affordable housing. Is where that comes from is as we add to the regulatory nature of compliance in the city for building 30 to 40% increase to the cost of compliance for building new structures in Anchorage. And that definitely adds to the lack of affordability problem with the housing. So if you add all 5 of those things together, we've got a really serious problem here. And this city is in free fall economically. And we definitely need to deal with that. So my thing is with the homelessing directly, it's not one fix. It's a whole host of problems that we have to fix. And we have to deal with them at the same time. And it deals with all 5. So, pardon me for that. So what we have to do is move forward with an integrated plan with both government and private partnership, and that includes the ACLU. That's difficult for us. Most of us are conservatives, but I'll tell you something. If you do it the wrong way, they're going to take it to court, and we're going to solve nothing. So we have to partner with Catholic Social Services, with the ACLU, with the ACLU and the Anchorage Police Department. We're simply going to have to do that. And once we get to a greater footprint where we can house these people, hopefully as Palmer Correctional Facility, or possibly the North Bay Mall, there's a lot of problems with that. That's 20 acres that where we can possibly put these people. But that in and of itself is the same problem we had with the 4 properties they talked about originally. When people can have these problems and they can come and they can go at their own free will, that just adds to the problem. There's no change, there's no improvement. So the answer is we have to move forward in a different way, in a far better way, and we need to deal with all 5 aspects or causes of homelessness. And it's going to cost us some money, but it's costing us a lot of money right now. These people, some of them grew up pretty harshly, fetal alcohol syndrome, psychiatric, physical abuse. That's really bad. We need to be compassionate towards these people. But their problems can no longer be the problems of small business people in the city. We need to move forward and fix our business, because if we don't, the economic free fall we're going to experience, it's going to be 1985, and the older folks, we all remember that. I got here just after that, and it was pretty bad. And people walking away from their homes, from their mortgages, we can't go there again. And I'm just here to tell you, all of the economic indicators are in place for another free fall. A wage rates, that is, people that can't pay their gas bills, for residential is up. A wage rates for commercial properties is way up. That's the canary in the mine shaft. That's the thing that's telling us what's coming. And as we continue this present shutdown, it's only going to get worse. Look at your restaurant, well, if you can remember going into one. Look at the wait staff. There's 5, 6, 7 people there. That's 5, 6, 7 rent checks that aren't going to be paid. There might be mortgages that aren't going to be paid. When that starts cascading, it's going to get real serious. So I was, as a sidebar, I was speaking to a bank president friend of mine. She told me the other day, they're moving personnel, they're training personnel from what's called revenue generation to asset recovery. And I hope we all understand what that means. That means they're going from making money to repossessions, okay, and taking back properties, from vehicles to homes. This isn't good, and this has to get fixed, and the homeless problem is going to get worse if we don't fix the shutdown. I'm an economist by trade. That's my degree. I've been a commercial pilot and military pilot for 40 years. My basis is economics. All of this stuff is connected to one another. And we can't ignore this anymore. So if you sit there and think you can separate the shutdown from the homeless vacancy issue from something else, you can't. They're all connected, and it's going to start cascading. That's the term that I've been told. That's good. Once it starts cascading, you can't stop it. The only thing we're going to do is wait for the bottom. Circa 1985, we saw that. So be prepared, and let's make a change here, because this homeless/vagrancy problem that we're experiencing, this isn't going to, that ain't nothing until we see this economic crash that's coming. And thank heavens the rest of the state isn't in shutdown mode. There's several other cities that are, but we're 40% of the population, and we've shut down the economy. You know? So, anyways, that's all I've got on the homelessness issue. It needs to be dealt with firmly, and we need to help these individuals. The compassionate thing to do is to get them under control, get them detoxified, get them cleaned up, get them to a position in their life where they can make good life decisions, and then we train them. Hopefully there's jobs left. And we can retrain them to a point where they can contribute back to society, unlike what they're doing right now. But living on the Chester Creek Trail, living in our parks, camped out in the front of businesses, that isn't the answer, and it's not compassionate. So that's all I got on the homelessness issue. Is there any questions?
I want to make sure that I see this clear. So you do see not only... I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I have this clear. You see not only housing the homeless, but providing job training and abuse programs?
We have to deal with the underlying cause. And if the problem is an abuse problem or a psychiatric problem or drug or alcohol, okay, we have to deal with that, okay? And we're dealing with it already. My wife and I, we went downtown, we came off the highway south, we got on the 4th, we drove down to Captain Cook to pick up a friend. For grains, from the time we turned on 4th, the time we got Captain Cook, we found 52 homeless people. We picked them up, we got back on 4th, we came back on 6th, and we counted about another 30 or 35 people. That's in downtown. This is what you got to remember. We need the cruise ships to come back, okay? But the people that are on the cruise ships, they're reading on the internet and they're seeing this problem. And they're saying, oh, I want to take a cruise ship to Anchorage, get off the boat, take a cab into town. I got 4 or 5 hours. I stay at the Captain Cook and I want to walk around downtown. They're not going to want to do that when the vacancy problem is that bad. So what they're going to do is say, you know, I'm going to take a cruise ship, go to Seward or Whittier. I'm going to get on the bus and go to Denali Park and then go up to Fairbanks and take the airline home. That's what's going to happen. They're going to bypass our downtown. And I'm just here to tell you that a city without a vibrant downtown is just a collection of neighborhoods. That's all it is. And downtown is critical in any city. I traveled the world, or I did until I retired here a few months ago, from China to Europe to the Middle East. And there's something in our nature that wants to sit together in a restaurant, in a cafe, drink tea, drink alcohol, drink coffee, and talk and argue politics, or talk about the weather. That's in our DNA, and I'm just telling you, it's not happening right now, and we're harming ourselves. Our kids aren't in school, we're harming our kids, and it's all time, because as the municipality, as the entity, whatever it is, state or city, starts melting down, this homeless issue comes back.
It can only get worse. And like one rule I tell my kids, you know, when you're complaining, no matter how bad things are, it can always get worse. This can get worse. It can get really worse. So we need to empower our police to take control of people who've been warned several times and have been cited several times, and then finally, you work with the ACLU, you come up with a plan, and you say, hey, ACLU, you're supposed to be very compassionate liberals. There's people freezing to death on the street. I had a friend who counsels me on this, and he said, Dave, you know what it's like getting a call at 2 o'clock in the morning and have to, as a police officer, as a patrolman, go downtown and scrape a dead human being off the sidewalk that's frozen to the sidewalk? He says, I've done it. He says, this isn't compassionate what the left is doing to us. We used to have, when Dan Sullivan left, we had a little over 300 people on that were considered homeless. The most recent studies is about 1,600. That doesn't include the couch surfers, the guy who's staying with his buddy on the couch. He goes, these are the people living on the street. Why did that happen? It's because we went from a conservative government to a very radical leftist government. I'm not even going to call them Democrats. I mean, they happen to be part of the Democrat Party. I don't fundraisers for Don Sullivan, or Don Young. And there's big name Democrats writing checks as much as they can to Republican candidates, and they don't recognize their city. This isn't a Republican-Democrat thing. This is normal versus radical. That's what we're in right now, and it needs to be reversed. Does that answer?
Yeah, I was just concerned about the job training thing.
Well, yeah, you got to get them back, but there's got to be jobs to train them to.
Yeah.
You're not going to train them to be a CEO of something, or even a business owner. They're going to want to start at the bottom, which is usually,
Or something.
yes,
Yeah.
in a restaurant that's closed.
Yeah. So why did you decide to run for mayor?
It's not that I want to be a mayor, I want to fix problems. You got to run for mayor to get in the position, the best position, to fix the problems. And it's that simple. I never envisioned myself a politician. You know, I've been a pilot since I was 18 years old. That's all I ever wanted to do. I retired in September, and I had, from my last flight in late March until September, I didn't have any flights. I got off the airplane in Seattle where I work, got on and came up here, and I thought I'd go back to work in a couple of days. Turned out to a couple of weeks, and then finally I go non-current. And all of a sudden they say, we'll give you an early return, which I took. And so I took the early retirement, and I had a lot of time off for hunting and fishing. I did all that kind of stuff. I wasn't happy because the core of my life is a city. And it was broken and it was getting worse. I says, I'm going to fix the problem. So I'm getting the wind, my timer stopped, I'm getting the wind down call, so I guess that's it.
One question?
Yes, I was reading your I will list here, and I have one question, and that is how, for 3 of these items. I will reopen our economy. How? I will consolidate city administrative functions. How? I will streamline planning, engineering, and inspections. How?
Excellent questions. I'll reopen the economy. I'll end the shutdowns. You know, if you want to wear a mask, I'm not into the mask business. There's a lot of studies out there, and that issue is going to fade away. I am just going to open the business. I'm going to stimulate. We may have to have government incentives, tax incentives for businesses that have been put out of business to come back into business. Okay, and I mean, we've all seen it. There's stores closed everywhere. There's restaurants closed everywhere. A lot of them aren't coming back. They're selling the real estate. They're getting out. So what was the next two?
Consolidation.
Administrative functions, and I've had some work related to that. That's a good wishful thinking.
Yeah, the deep state isn't going to like it. But at the end of the day, we got to keep our eyes on the budget. At the end, we got to cut back our spending. We're raising plenty of money in the city still. I just went through the CAFR 19, like Heather did. You know, the revenue is still coming in. Okay, for now, until these businesses go business, and they're not paying their property taxes. But right now, up through August, we were doing pretty well. Okay, we've got to look at the long range, which is we're spending too much for the amount of money that we're going to be raising, which is a lot less than we're raising right now. What's that?
Where do you cut it? Where are you going to cut it?
Well, if you go through the budget items, the big ones are the school. The city pays $247 million a year to the school. 2/3 of the 831, that's the total budget, 831 million, is the state. Well, guess what? The state's in trouble too. So the revenue sharing is going to reduce, and then 10% is federal. So we've got a time bomb coming. We've got to reduce spending in the school district. Okay, and that's a school board policy, but the mayor has one big club on the school board, and it's this: he's got the right to approve or disapprove the budget. And we've got to cut spending. Why does the school district have an engineering department for building schools? And the city does too. There's duplication. There's property that's not on the border rules. I'm a big believer that everybody pays taxes, a little bit. Okay, but we've got property that the city owns to the tune of billions that's not on the tax rolls. It has to be sold off. If it's not being used, sell it and try to get a business in there so that he can pay a little bit of property tax. And again, it comes back to the theme of this. The business of the city is simply business. It's nothing else. It's not charity, as terrible as that sounds. It's not charity, it's not government, it's nothing but business. And that sounds cruel, but I guess what? We're seeing the results of the direct attack on small business in this city. And if there's any small business owners here, you understand what you're going through. By the way, Walmart's doing okay, Costco's doing okay. Share price of Costco in mid-April was $267. And I checked last week, Costco was $383 a share. What do you think the market thinks about Costco? They're doing really well worldwide during COVID. But why is Little Victor closed? Why is Andy Corner closed? Okay, why is the Mex having all this problem? They can't bring, there's 8,000 business licenses in this city. How many of them are going to go out of business? So homelessness, as big a problem as it is, and it's the subject matter for tonight, that's not a big thing compared to what's coming. And we've got to be ready for it. And I'll tell you, 3 or 6 more years of another liberal administration, last guy out the door, turn off the lights. Because we're going to be looking at 1985 all over again, people walking away from the mortgages. It's fixable, don't get me wrong, I'm not a pessimist. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think it was fixable. But we got to do something, we got to do it now. Henry was talking about school board races, assembly races, the mayor's race. It's got to get fixed.
Dave, thank you. Okay. So the city is a business, not a government. What a concept. And all of our founding fathers have something to say about a government. Yes, they do. Okay, our final candidate and citizen for mayor yet tonight.
Can I say something real quick?
Yes, before. So, Mr. Robbins, if we have a comment here, then make your way up front, please. Yes. Oh, do I have a microphone?
Mr. Bronson was talking a lot about the restaurant shutdowns, and we have a big family, but we are intentional this month to go out to eat. So I really encourage you, dig into your pockets, find some money, and go support some of these restaurants. The last 2 meals we've had, the people have been so grateful that we have come in and bought. Last night we had the most delicious Mexican food, had this divine encounter with the woman who served us. It was amazing. And then 2 nights ago, we got some Thai food. I mean, it's kind of a treat for us because, like I said, we have a lot of kids. We don't go out a lot. But I think this is something all of us should do if we can. Once, maybe twice a week. Go and buy food from these small businesses and enjoy the meal and bless them with the love of God when you go in there.
Okay, a final citizen who has an opinion. And we're looking for people to step up and destroy liberalism. Mr. Robbins.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
First of all, I just want to say thank you very much to AMAC. I had no idea that once a month there was a meeting here that talked about the Constitution, that promoted conservative values. I was in the radio business for a long time, and I used to listen to Dennis Prager do ads for AMAC all the time to talk about it. And before I heard about this event, I didn't even know there was a local AMAC chapter. So I just want to say, God bless you, buddy. I think you guys are doing a great job here, so thank you very much. And thanks for those of you. So I'm going to do something my campaign manager told me not to do. But I want everyone to take out their phones, if you would. And there's something going on right now in our country that ties in very well with the preface to our meeting tonight. We have President Donald Trump, who is fighting for what I believe is the soul and the heart of our nation. He's trying to restore integrity to our elections on a national level, and whether you like Donald Trump or don't like Donald Trump isn't the issue. The issue is that he's fighting for the integrity of our elections, and he's taking the swamp to task, he's taking these people to task, and he's trying to make a change. He may not be our next president, that's okay. And he's certainly fighting a good fight. So what I'd like you to do is type this number on your phone. It's 465-3500. That's the number for Mike Dunleavy's voicemail. And I'd like you to leave him a message and tell him that you support him joining Texas's lawsuit against the other states in decertifying their elections. Because we have to do something about what's going on at a national level.
Can you give the number again?
465-3500. 3500, good man. So if you would do that, I would appreciate that very much. Because what's happening in our nation is mirrored by what's mirrored here in Anchorage. It's the same thing that's happening here. So you didn't ask me the homeless question, but I assume you're going to answer it. Okay. So what caused the increase in the homeless population over the last few years wasn't just a liberal mayor and a liberal assembly and policies that enable certain kinds of behavior. What also caused the problems was the way that we dealt with our criminals. SB 91 released people out on the street. We had a catch and release policy that allowed people to get out of jail free, get out of jail early. And so what happened is we had people coming to Anchorage. If you lived in Bethel, and you broke a window, and it was $300 in Anchorage, they'd write you a ticket. In Bethel, it's $1,200 or $1,500. So they'd send you to Anchorage, and they'd put you in jail. When you got out of jail, they handed you a box of stuff and said, good luck. And so they started to commit a lot more people. They started to send a lot more people to Anchorage to go to and release them from jail. The homeless problem grew. Affordable housing is an issue, yes, but it's not the issue. It's not the reason the homeless population has increased. The reason the population has increased is because we aren't dealing with the problem the right way. All right? You cannot enable people to help. And that's what this city has been doing for the last few years. If we're going to stop homelessness, the first thing we need to do is we need to enforce our laws. We need to get our arms around these folks. We need to arrest them. We need to not let them continue to break the law and be drunk in public and drink on the corner of C Street and Long Lights in the middle of the day. We need to stop that behavior. And when I say we need to arrest them and get our arms around them, what I mean is not to just throw them in jail, but we need to get our arms around them so we can see what the issue is. Do they have a drug and alcohol abuse problem? Do they have a mental health issue? And then we need to be able to get a look at them, and then we need to get them into a program so that we move them back into the stream of life. Nobody wants to be homeless. I disagree with the people who say that, most of those people want to be homeless. I've done a ride-along with the Anchorage police. I've talked to the police about this. I've talked to the police union about this. And there are a percentage of people who don't want to conform to the rules that we all have in society. But for the most part, a man and a woman want to earn a living. They want to be productive. And sometimes they fall into despair with drugs and alcohol, And we need to give them a hand up, a hand out. We can't just enable the behavior. When I'm mayor, you will not see the Department of Homelessness in Anchorage. We will not expand city government to deal with the homeless problem. The biggest reason that we have one of the biggest reasons I should say that we have a lot of homeless people here right now is because we don't have any rehabilitation beds. All of the drug and alcohol abuse beds are full. So I've talked to, we have a committee, an advisory committee that we put together to deal with the homeless issue, made up of stakeholders who are dealing with the problem right now. And when we talk to them, the biggest challenge is if a gentleman has or a person has an alcohol problem, they can't get into treatment because there are no beds. So the first thing we need to do to deal with the homeless problem, when I'm mayor, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring together all of the nonprofits. There's over 20 of them right now dealing with some part of the homeless problem. And I'm going to bring together Providence, and I'm going to bring together Alaska Native Health, and I'm going to bring all these folks into a room, and we're going to sit down and we're going to set a goal. And we're going to say, we want to reduce the homeless population in Anchorage by 75% in the next 3 years. How do we accomplish that? I'm not going to stand for we can't do it, we need to buy buildings, we need to spend more money, the state needs to give us more money, we need to find a real solution to the problem. If you look at what they did in Salt Lake City, and lots of other cities in America, that's what they did. They sat down and they said, how do we solve the problem? How do we help these people not be homeless? And that's what we need to do. We can't just buy a building, let them live there, and think that we're going to solve the problem. We have to help these people get back into the stream of life. And that starts with mental health, drug and alcohol counseling. So that's the one thing I'm going to do when I'm mayor, is I'm going to bring those people together. So that's the answer to that question. So we have a vision for the city that we want to make Anchorage a safer, cleaner, and more prosperous city again. We think that the city has come far away from where it was. I moved here in 1975. I grew up in Spinard, and when I first moved here, I lived on 36th and Coke Street. I would leave my door unlocked at night because I didn't have to worry about criminals. I can't leave my car parked in my office on Arctic and Northern Lights now, overnight, because somebody could steal it. In fact, my brother's car got stolen overnight there, not more than 3 months ago. So, we want to return the city to a safer, cleaner, more prosperous place. And to do that, the first thing we have to do is we have to deal with crime. All right? We have to give the police the tools they need to deal with crime. We can't look the other way. The current administration has taken kind of a hands-off policy with criminals. You can commit 5, 6, 7, 8 crimes before you get arrested. In fact, when I was doing my ride-along, he told me that they don't even really pursue criminals that are under $10,000. They just hope that they snare them in some other manner. All right? And that just doesn't work because we were talking about the waitresses. Dave was talking about the waitresses earlier. To a waitress that's making $2,400 a month, you steal $300 from her, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And maybe me or you can take somebody stealing $1,000 from us. But she has every right to have herself protected the same way that everybody else does. So we have to deal with crime. We have to give the police what they need to do that. And we have to enforce the laws equally among the people who are breaking them and the people who are abiding by them. You know, I like to tell the story. If you've driven by the corner of Arctic and Northern Lights there where the McDonald's is, that's where our campaign office is, and you see the big Robbins for Mayor sign right there. Well, the first day we put that sign out 3 months ago, I walked back inside to get my iPhone and take a picture of it. I came back out and there was a dude passed out behind the sign, sleeping. Wasn't 15 minutes, right? And we've all seen the same thing, right? So we have to make these people comply with the law. We have to deal with the vagrants. And that's the first thing we need to do in order to make the city cleaner, safer, and more prosperous. Second thing we need to do, we need to create a world-class education system. Our school system right now, I don't want to talk about COVID. That was pre-COVID we were doing terrible. right? During COVID, I don't even know what we're doing, right? I have 2 kids, one in high school and one in grade school. And distance learning is a nightmare. It's a disaster. It really is a disaster. But even pre-COVID, our school district is producing some of the lowest test scores in America, right? And we're spending more money per capita for our kids than most people. And you know we can fix that problem? It's really easy to fix. We just have to focus on it. We just can't let things operate the way that they have. And when I'm elected mayor, one of the things I'm going to do, I'm going to bring a red pen to the job, all right? And I'm going to use that red pen to circle expenses that I don't understand, or that I question. You know, I've been a business guy for 35 years. And one of the things I learned is that you watch the small stuff, all right? You don't watch the $1,000 a month expenditures, you watch the $50 a month ones, because those are the ones that will eat your lunch, right? So as mayor, I'm going to take an interest in what's going on in the school district. I'm going to pay attention. You know, I'm going to pay attention to what they're doing over there. I've already gone to 4 school board meetings as a candidate. And I can see why the mayors don't like to go to them. They're not the most exciting meetings in the world. I got to tell you. But as a mayor, I have an obligation to the people of the city to make sure that I'm paying attention to what they're spending their money on. Because it's not my money, it's your money. I'm just the steward of the money. So education is the second thing that we're going to do to help make Anchorage a safer, cleaner, more prosperous city. The third thing we're going to do is we're putting together a COVID economic recovery plan. Because there is no doubt that what's happening with our small businesses right now, at the start of this year, we had 5 businesses. All right, now we have 2. 2 of those were closed by COVID. All right, one of them we were lucky enough to sell. But the other 2 are still barely hanging on. One of them is closed. It's still open. My wife goes into work every day, even though there's no customers. So we still call ourselves open. But the point is that we have to, as a part of our COVID economic recovery next year, and I think we're in for about a 24-month cycle before we're going to get it back on track. I think we have to take our foot off of the small business guy. We have to open our city back up. And we have to look for creative ways to build our business. All I've done for the last 40 years is business. I've built businesses from the ground up. I started with nothing. Didn't come from a rich family. I grew up in Spinard. It's kind of a, I was a mischievous kid, let's just say. So everything I got, so I know how to build things. I know how to build things up, and I know how to fix things. And what we need to do to get the economy restarted is we can take our foot off of the neck of the small business guy. Entrepreneurs are an amazing sort. They will figure it out if you let them, and if you get out of their way. The city has worked really hard to get in the way of our small business guy. Right? You look at the planning and the zoning department. By the way, we have a gentleman named Ron Thompson who's on our team, and I encourage you to go to our website. And if you want to know the kind of people that are backing us for mayor, go to our website and look at our team. We have a team of over 20 folks who have signed up for the campaign that are helping us do this. Because I'll be honest with you, this is really too big of a job for one person. All right? We cannot fix this city. I cannot stand up here and tell you that I'm going to fix this city all by myself, because that is not going to happen. All right? But I am going to need the team that's going to do it. That I can tell you. All right? So look at our team. Look who we got on board. Ron Thompson, you guys know him? Anybody know Ron? You're in the building business? So he knows more about the planning and permitting department than probably anybody alive. He's really good at it, right? He really knows what he's doing. So he signed on to help us understand the problem with that process. Because one of the other things I talked about was, we put together advisory committees to kind of help us understand these processes. And he's heading up our municipal advisory committee because he understands the municipal process. So we're going to take our foot off the small business guy. We're going to look for ways to streamline city government, right? I think we can save $150 million. It's amazing what happens when you're running for mayor. You have a ton of people call you and tell you things that nobody knew about, all right? So I'm not going to go into detail about how we're going to make that happen, but I can just tell you that I bet you $10 we could save at least $150 million without one job being lost, right? And for sure with it. We're doing time. Okay? Oh, I got 5 minutes, okay.
If you have questions and comments, as we're at that
Yeah,
time.
if anyone wants to ask a question, just raise your hand, I'll stop talking, because I love to hear myself talk after all I learned for office, so. My voice is needed, my wife tells me all the time that my voice is the favorite thing I hear, so.
So it's my assumption, what I've heard is the assembly members aren't up for any election replacement for at least a year. So how would you, as a conservative mayor, deal with those assembly members?
Well, the first thing is, what I've done my entire life is gotten people to do things that they didn't necessarily think they wanted to do when we started. Right? I've been in sales since I was 17 years old. Right? And so I am used to persuading people to do things by helping them understand what our commonality is. Right? But there's probably no negotiation with those guys on these things. I'm not saying that we're going to reach across the middle or any of those sort of higher terms. But what I can tell you is I know how to build consensus, I know how to lead people. I know how to get people to do things. They're sometimes not even in their own best self-interest, but they're in the best interests of the city. And I think we can do that. They have an agenda, they've been unchecked. When I'm a conservative mayor, they're no longer going to be unchecked. All right? The second thing is that there's one seat up in April, yeah. And then we're working with the recall Felix people right now on that effort to help them get him out of there as well. So, because we realize the importance, and that's one of the things that we committed to, the group of us that got together and decided to do this, is that we know this is a short process. This isn't going to happen just by electing me mayor. I have to be elected a second term, I have to have somebody to run after me, we have to flip the assembly as well, because we really need to just write the direction of how things are going. We need to get this imbalance dealt with that we have in the city right now.
We have companies like the nonprofits, like Siri, Arctic Slope Regional Corporation. No taxes. They pay no taxes. They have lots of money-making businesses in this city. How can we get some money from those people?
That's a really good question. And I think the best way to answer that is we have to look at it and we have to try to find a way to tax them, either through property taxes or other things that we could do, because you're right, Siri's a nonprofit corporation, and they've gotten that status because the idea behind Siri is that they're supposed to support the community and they're supposed to be good. So I think that part of the problem we've had with our current administration, after talking to the folks at many of these companies and many of these places, is that they've had ideas, for example, on how to help us solve the homeless problem. They've had ideas on how to help us solve the mental health problem, but the mayor's wasn't listening. He didn't want to hear it. He had his own agenda, and he was pushing it. So one of the ways, while we may not be able to tax them, we can certainly go with it, and we can say, look, instead of us bringing it over the line, why don't you buy it? Why don't you run the drug and alcohol treatment program? And then we don't have to worry about it. And then we get a piece of property, it's going to collect, we're going to get property tax from it. Makes sense?
If Siri owns it, you'll never get property. Can't hear.
If Siri, she said if Siri owns it, they'll never get property tax. They'll never get property taxes from it. You could be right. But if we get Siri to point and then buy the building and run the program, I think I'd rather have that than the property tax. Save that money for the taxpayer. So, creative, sorry.
I appreciate what you said about education. For years, we have been afflicted by one of the very most expensive school systems that has produced one of the poorest results in the nation. It's a travesty. So I appreciate your statement of the goal, but you just spoke that. Can you give us some idea about how you can turn around this thing that seems to have had such an, what's the right word?
Upside down, operating, because you have, if I may. So I guess what you're asking is how specifically do we address the issue about education?
There's an inertia that's been going on there. Habits, I don't know what they are, but it would take a really significant turnaround. And I appreciate the goal, I really do. I'm all on board with that, and I think a lot of us are. What kind of ideas do you have that can be practical, that really can make a difference?
So the first thing I would say is that you know how we got here where we are today? The Democrats have a habit, and the liberals have this saying, and actually the saying we used to say a long time ago, which is you eat an elephant one bite at a time, all right? And that's how we got here, and that's what you're talking about, is the liberals and the Democrats, they know that they don't have to cut the elephant's head off to win the battle. All they need to do is take little bites. Because pretty soon, if you take enough little bites, you can win the battle. And so, you're right. There's a ton of inertia that's going against making any changes to the school district. All right? And I think specifically, what we have to do, we have to study it, we have to look at ways that we can take and reduce the amount of administration. Because, perfectly honest, I'd rather pay teachers more and have less administrators. You know, someone told me we have 1,800 administrators in the school district. That's insane.
How about charter schools?
How about it?
Charter schools are an answer to part of
Speak up, can't hear.
He said charter schools, he asked me how about charter schools, and I said, how about them? Well, my daughter goes to a charter school. So charter schools are a great alternative. Any alternative, any way that we can increase our educational output, I didn't spend the same, right? I spend the exact same dollars if we can increase our educational output by 25%. And so that's what we're working towards. So I think it takes, when we put our campaign together, the consultant said, oh, don't talk about education. You don't want to get these teachers union upset with you. You don't want those people fighting with you, right? Well, there's certain things that I just believe in. And I believe that in order for us to be a safer, cleaner, more prosperous city, we have to have a good education system. We have to get control of crime. We have to get the homeless people off our streets and back into the street of life. And we have to open our economy up so that people can feel free here to earn a living and raise their families. I don't want people moving to Wasilla. I don't want people, living in Seattle or Portland or Las Vegas. They're all gone. Yeah, but it's kind of funny, but I'll just close with a quick story. I had a friend of mine call me about 4 months ago, and he said, hey, Mike, it's the kid I went to school with, and he lives in California now, and he said, hey, Mike, my son and my daughter-in-law are going to move up to Alaska. He said, hey, that's great, just let me know when they get here, I'll be glad to help them. And I said, started to kind of think, I said, wait a second, does he have a job? Oh, yeah, he's got a job, good, it's okay. Does she have a job? He's like, yeah, I think she's already got a job. I said, good. And I said, do they know Alaska? Do they have any kids? And he said, no kids, no kids yet. I said, okay, good. And the reason I ask this question is because when I was a kid growing up here, people would call me and I would say, hey, you should come to Alaska. The crime rates are low. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a marvelous, it's like the Wild West. It's the last place in America where a guy without a high school education can start his business, grow his family, can make something out of himself. Because Alaska doesn't care who you are, as long as you're willing to work hard, worship God, help your neighbors, and stay out of people's business. That's kind of the way we used to be, and that's not the way we are now. And that's why I'm running for mayor, because I want Anchorage to be a safer, cleaner, more prosperous city again. I want to bring us back to where we used to be in terms of pride, and I want to move us forward to where we can be in terms of a beautiful city on the West Coast. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. And thank you to all of you for your time and your citizenry tonight. One thing I heard from all three of our speakers, Heather and Dave and Mike, they're all declaring that they've come from a business background, which means they've had to think things through. They're not lawyers and they're not government bureaucrats looking for more. So these are the kind of people that are going to do something. So I invite you to stay tuned here over the next pre-April meetings. We're going to continue with our regard for the mayoral race. There's another fellow out there, Bill Falsey. I don't know too much about him yet. trying to find out how he fits into things. And our next meeting then is in January 12th, next. And I'd like you to tell me in any ways, either my phone or email, what you'd like to see as part of your AMAC. Okay? One thing we aren't doing here is the Washington reports, in a sense, or what is AMAC actually doing in Washington, D.C. You would be amazed. They're doing something. And they're not just selling insurance and brochures. So I invite you to be curious about that. Have you gotten an email from the national?
Yeah.
And do you open them and do you read them? I mean, there's a whole new flowering going on of their product. So I invite you to be curious about that. Let's see, encourage you to be a poll worker. And finally, bring a friend next time. So, bless you all tonight as you enjoy your family and who you are. And good night, and thank you, and thank you, sir. Okay. Good night.
Thanks for everybody for tuning in tonight.
Okay, here it is. District 4, Felix Rivera, petition. We have over at the table over there, some blank. If you haven't signed one yet, we call him Felix, please walk over there. Sign it. Okay, thank you, Julie.
If you didn't catch that, they got a recall, Felix, recall petition here at the AMAC meeting. I won't be surprised to continue to keep running these after AMAC. There are several places out there that you can go to check out where they are sitting out there and make different signatures. I know it's at one of the cars here in Anchorage, go out there and do that. Again, don't forget to like and share. Go to the website, Politadick.com, click that donate button. Everything goes right back into this. The podcast is coming down online by the end of the week. Thank you all for tuning in.